everyone, it's Stella.
And Taryn here from Meeple University. Today we'll get you started on how to play Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West, game designed by Rob Devo, Matt Leacock and Alan R. Moon and published by Days of Wonder. What we'll be doing here is we'll be taking you through how to initially set up the box and then how to get started on the first game of your 12-game campaign. We're not going to spoil anything in this video which you won't know through reading the rulebook and getting into your first game.
For sure, let's get to the game.
When you first open your Ticket to Ride Legacy, you're going to come across this instruction sheet, which tells you to stop and read this first. And this tells you how to handle the components in the box without spoiling any part of the campaign. Once you're done with these steps, this is what you'll have found. The top removable tray contains 5 of these jigsaw-like pieces which will make up the game board at the start of the campaign. Stop once you get here. You're not allowed to look below this page until you're instructed to during the campaign. You can simply lift this entire tray out to get below it. These 5 boxes represent the different train companies. Each player is going to take one of these boxes and control that company for the entire campaign. Each of these boxes has 2 compartments, the office, which you'll use for between game storage, and the vault, which has this slot where you'll store things until the end of the campaign. Each company will have a tray of matching coloured trains, and there'll be a separate packet of spare trains in all colours, which you shouldn't need unless you lose some components. You'll have some money which you've punched out as well. You'll have 8 frontier boxes and the conductor's toolbox. Do not open those until instructed. Finally, this skinny box on the side is where you'll store all of the game's decks of cards. The front section is for the train cards, which you'll use during each game, and they have this back. This deck will include 6 newspaper cards. You'll find them packaged in a different shrink wrap package to the rest of these cards, and it may be useful to keep these separate to the rest because the number you'll use in each game depends on your player count. Next you'll have the tickets, which show this back, and the events, which show this back. All 3 of these decks are used during each game and do get shuffled, so you don't need to worry if these get out of order. Next is the storeroom, where you'll keep a grab bag of different components. Right now, this includes the caboose, which is the first player card, 1 company bonus card belonging to each of the 5 companies, and you can put each of these into the office slot of its corresponding company box. Then there is the pad of bank slips, and this is where you'll record your scores after each game. Behind the storeroom is the post office, and this includes cards which are called postcards. Each of these is indicated by a number in its top right corner, and you should leave these cards in order and not read any of them unless instructed. The final divider is for the dead letter office, and it's behind this divider that you'll place any cards through the campaign which are retired, that is, that will never be used again. The game will tell you when this occurs. Finally, stored flat is the story deck. This unfolds the story of the campaign as you go through it. These cards are in a specific order, so don't read them and don't shuffle them. You're now ready to begin your campaign. Ticket to Ride Legacy is a legacy game which is played over a campaign of 12 games. Across the course of the campaign, each player will play as a single train company attempting to earn as much total money as possible. The campaign is connected by a continuous story, and as you proceed, you'll gain new components, retire components from the game, make permanent physical alterations to some of the game's components, and you'll gain new rules as you go along, which will be added to these empty spaces in the rulebook by way of stickers. As such, you'll always find it helpful to have the rulebook with you as a reference when playing Ticket to Ride Legacy. This will remind you to do things in the correct order, as sometimes the rules may even change on you halfway during setup. It's most likely that you'll play the campaign with the same group of players and the same player count for every game. But if for some reason someone needs to drop out or simply skip one session, Don't worry, you can still play each individual game at whatever player count you're playing, and there is a way of adjusting a player's final campaign score to account for any scenarios they may have missed. Now I'll take you through the full rules to play the first scenario of the Legacy campaign. I'll teach you the full rules from scratch, but I will point out for seasoned Ticket to Ride players where there are any critical changes to the rules which you'll be familiar with from the base game. First, use your available jigsaw pieces to build the board. Open the office half of your box and take out anything inside. This will just be your company bonus in Game 1. All players take $5. Separate the newspapers from the train deck and then shuffle 3 of them in if you're playing a 4 or 5 player game, 4 if you're playing a 3 player game, or all 6 in a 2 player game. Leftovers are returned to the box. Deal a starting hand of 4 train cards to each player, and deal a starting display of 5 train cards face up onto the table where all players can reach. Any newspapers which are drawn during these starting draws should be revealed, set aside and replaced. Then shuffled back into the deck. Shuffle and place the ticket cards and then deal a hand of 4 tickets to each player. This is different to the 3 that you draw in the base game. Players review their own tickets and must choose 2, 3 or 4 of them to keep, returning any they choose not to keep to the bottom of the deck. Now it's time to go to the story deck. Draw the cards one by one and then read both sides of what's on each of the cards. This may include some story, and it may include some reminders or new rules for the game. Keep going until you reach a card which says pause. This is your signal to go to the next step of setup, and the card will tell you when you flip this to read it. Next, shuffle and place all of the event cards here. Take a number of train pieces as indicated by which episode of the campaign you're up to. In the first scenario, 1865, you'll use only 20 of your trains. All others remain in the box. Finally, for the first game, choose a random first player. In all subsequent games, someone will already have the first player card. You're now ready to play. A game of Ticket to Ride Legacy is played in turns, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table until the end of the game is reached. On your turn, you will take one action, and there are 3 different options. You could draw train cards, claim a route, or draw tickets. If you draw trains, you may draw 2 cards, one at a time, either from the display or from the top of the draw deck. There is no hand limit. If you take a card from the display, you immediately replenish it before taking your next card. A train with this icon is called a locomotive, and it counts as a wild colour through the game, making it more powerful than the others. As a result, if you want to take a locomotive from the face-up display, it must be the first card you take, and you're not allowed to take a second. In other words, having already taken this green card from the face-up display, I cannot now take one of these locomotives. But on a separate turn, taking this card alone would be legal. This extra restriction applies only to face-up locomotives. If you were to draw a locomotive face down off the top of the deck as your first card, you'd still be able to draw a second. And if you drew it as your second card, you'd be allowed to keep it. If at any time 3 of the 5 face-up cards are locomotive, even during setup, immediately sweep them out and discard them and replace with 5 new cards. Anytime a newspaper card is drawn from this deck, and that can include whether it's drawn blindly into a player's hand off the top of the deck or flipped face up into the display, this triggers a new event. Flip the next card from the event deck face up onto its discard pile. Whichever card is visible on the discard pile is the current active event, and there are 2 types of events. A passive event, which is in effect as long as this card is visible, or an immediate event indicated by this lightning bolt. In this case, you'll resolve its effect immediately when flipped, and then there'll be no ongoing passive event until a new one is revealed. Then discard the newspaper card and replace it from the top of the deck. The second action is to claim a route. The main board is made up of several coloured routes between cities. Each route has one or more colours and a length. For example, Albany to Boston is a length 1 green route. Buffalo to Philadelphia is length 3 black. Buffalo to Montreal is length 2 blue or length 2 red. To claim a route, discard cards from your hand matching the colour of the route with a number equal to its length. This is 2 red cards, so I could claim this length 2 red route, marking its spaces with my train pieces. You may always claim a route anywhere on the board. It doesn't have to be near any previous routes you've claimed. For example, I could discard these 2 blue cards on a separate turn to place this route here. If a route is grey, then it can be claimed with matching cards of any colour. All cards contributing to a multicoloured route must match. This would not be a legal way to claim the Buffalo to Montreal route. Locomotive cards are wild for claiming routes, so I could discard these 2 cards to claim the blue half of the Buffalo to Montreal route. Once a single colour route has been claimed, it may not be claimed by any other player. When a double colour route has been claimed, the other half of it may be claimed by another player in a 4 or 5 player game. But in a 2 or 3 player game, the entire route is blocked as soon as one player has claimed either half. The same is not true for a triple colour route. Each step of this route may be claimed regardless of the player count. A player may not, however, claim more than one colour on the same route. A route which leaves the map and does not connect 2 cities cannot be claimed. After claiming a route, you immediately gain bonuses and benefits for that route. Now, if you're familiar with the base game, you would be used to gaining automatic points or money for each route that you place. That does not happen in Ticket to Ride Legacy. Instead, for the first game of the campaign, only the following benefits are available. Firstly, if your route connects to 1 or 2 large cities indicated by this green icon, then you draw exactly 1 card from the top of the deck into your hand. Second, you may score for your company bonus card. This card will grant you $2 when you claim a route in your own colour. So had I claimed this half of this route, I would gain $2. Thirdly, check the current active event. It may have some additional bonus or cost. There are no other bonuses for now, but if you check the rulebook, there's space for 17 new rules as part of this action to be unlocked as part of the campaign. So rest assured that this action is going to get more interesting and more strategic. The third action is to draw tickets. When you take this, you must draw 3 tickets from the top of the deck. Look at them, and then you must keep at least 1. You may keep 2 or 3. Any that you choose not to keep, return to the bottom of the draw deck. Tickets are a way of gaining extra money at the end of the game, but they come with a risk. You must connect the 2 cities shown on your ticket with an unbroken path of your routes, and if you're successful, you'll gain the money shown in the bottom left corner. If you're unsuccessful, you'll lose that same amount of money. If you've been looking at the components through this video, you'll have seen some other icons and features. For example, these anchors, this text and colours on some of the ticket cards, these skulls, and these pickaxes. I've got nothing more to tell you on those. You'll find out what they mean as you play the campaign. The end of the game is triggered when, at the end of a turn, any single player has 0, 1 or 2 trains remaining in supply. Each player, including the player who triggered the end of the game, takes 1 more turn and then the game is over. You'll now go through the end of game sequence in this specific order. And again, it'll be good to have the rulebook here to help you because these rules are going to change. Everyone takes a bank slip which they'll use to track their money from this game. Write the game's year in the top right corner. In the first box, write the amount of coins that you're holding in hand from the game. For the second box, determine how many trains you have left in your supply, and then add the bonus according to this table. Thirdly, check all of your ticket cards. Add up the money from any ticket you've completed and deduct the money from any you failed to complete. Mark that value down and then add up your total score. If that score is negative, set it to 0. Note that there are no bonus points for having the longest continuous route. The highest score wins this episode. If tied, whoever completed the most tickets wins, and if still tied, whoever was later in turn order. Whoever came last takes the first player card, adding it to their collection of cards, which they'll have at the start of the next game. Whoever took this must now look through the event discard pile, if there is one, and choose any one event from it to retire, adding it to the dead letter office, never to be used again. Now you're up to step 3, and this is your trigger to start flipping and reading the cards after the pause card. Again, you'll read both sides of each card and continue going until you reach the stop sign. This will represent the start of your next episode. Place your bank slip into your vault, that is through the slotted side of your player box. You won't open this again until the end of the campaign. Finally, and only at this specific point, clean up the board, ready for either your next episode or to finish your night of gaming. Be careful not to sweep up the board until this point. Some of these other rules and happenings may depend on the board state at the end of the game. And that should get you started on Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West. We hope you enjoyed this video.
Thank you so much for watching. Everything you do will help us. Every single view, every time you like our videos, our Instagram, every single comment, and let us know that you're there. And make sure you're doing something fun today. See you next time.